Hello and welcome back to the Yarn Horse Crafting Podcast. My name is Sasha and this is episode 53. I'm coming to you today from a somewhat sunny, somewhat nippy town just outside of Birmingham in the West Midlands here in the UK. And today is Friday the 10th of April 2026. And today I have two finished objects which you've never seen as whips, and three whips, including one that hasn't been seen since I think last June or July, because I lost it, completely forgot about it, and then found it back in February, then forgot about it again and found it again this week and decided to work on it. So I will warn people, I have had way too much coffee today, so if I am talking rather fast, my apologies. But shall we start with some finished objects? So my first finished object is this mini triangle scarf. Apologies, it's been folded up and then, yeah, so doesn't look great, but here it is. I shall pop it on to show. So it could be worn like this, sort of, I guess, bandana scarf style, or how I was wearing it the other day. I basically just wore it like this. It's lovely and warm. It is fuzzy. So this yarn is Karen Latte Cakes in the colourway Velvet Teal, I believe. I would check the wool band, but I have thrown that away because, well, yesterday I got into a spring cleaning mood, and instead of recording the podcast yesterday like I was supposed to, spent 3.5 hours cleaning out my crafting corner, which included the wool band for this. Oops. But I had 110 grams of this left from previous projects, and so I decided to make just a really quick and simple Tunisian crocheted triangle scarf. It's about half my wingspan, maybe a little bit more with a stretch, but I kind of just made it to use up the rest of the yarn because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with it, and I thought it would make a very nice neck accessory. So I did this in Tunisian simple stitch on a 8mm Tunisian crochet hook, and I basically just started in the one corner. I increased at the beginning of every row, and then once I got to what I thought was about halfway, I started decreasing at the start of every row. So I did have about 10 grams of it left, so this used about 100 grams. Or was that 120 and it used 110? I had an amount, so I have this finished. It does use up one yarn out of stash, so that's now gone, finished, or at least basically is, because the rest of it went into my scrap drawer, which I went through last night just to have a sort out, see what was in there, and pulled out a whole load of acrylic chunky cotton, all of the random scraps that I wasn't sure what to do with, and decided to make myself a little scrap basket. This does have a wooden base. The wooden base weighed 25 grams. I weighed it before I started. And if I was smart, I would have got my book out to see how much last year's weighed, to see roughly how much scrap I would need. I just thought I had enough with what I had. No, because this weighs 100 grams and a tiny bit of change in the decimal place. And if you've noticed, it doesn't have handles, and it's about half the size of everything else. all of my other baskets. So this is currently just a bowl, I guess. Yeah, I just figured it cleared out some of the stuff out of my scrap drawer. A lot of stuff that like I'd used for a specific project, and then once I'd finished it, it'd just gone in there and sat in there. So there's just a lot of random bits in there. It does mean, however, that between these two items, there is over 200 grams gone out of my stash. Even if it doesn't look like it, like from here, this is 200 grams, which this took me like 3 days, and I wasn't consistently working on it. It was just sort of pick up and put down over the bank holiday weekend because we were decorating, so I just wanted something quick and easy. And this took maybe 2 hours. I kind of just sat there after cleaning and tidying and organising, and I had most of this finished within an hour. I then went, made dinner, did a bunch of stuff, came back, and then realised I did not have anywhere near enough yarn for the size I wanted. So currently this is it. I could have just left it as a unfinished object, put it away till I had scraps, but because of the yarns I'm using for this, there's not likely to be any scraps for this for quite a while. I was holding 5 or 6 strands together at a time, so, and it's just, most of it's acrylic. There's some cotton in there. I think there's a couple of fluffy yarns. There's also the leftover Karen latte cakes at the top, which makes it quite fluffy at the top. I just counted this as out of stash. If I come back to it later in the year or next year and add to it, I know how much this weighs. It weighs basically 125 grams plus. So when I weighed the base was 25, almost exactly. It was slightly over. And then when I weighed it, I think it technically came to 126 grams, but I just counted it as 100 grams, rounding it down, just because I thought that'd be slightly more accurate in the long run than rounding things up. So, 2 finished objects that you never saw as whips. So, I'm feeling quite good about that. Like, it's kind of tidied up. It's tidied up this bit a little bit because there's no longer a floppy Karen latte cake there. And my scrap drawer doesn't actually look any emptier, but there is now 100 grams less in there, so. And then we can go on to whips. However, I am just going to have a quick drink of tea. Yes, I had a lot of coffee today. I switched to tea. I have been up for a ridiculously long time for me. So I've started doing a spinning class in the mornings, the fitness spin class, not the fun fibre craft. And that means I've had to be getting up at 5:30 in the morning, which I know for some people is normal. I'm not a morning person. Not my thing, but since I've been up since 5:30, I've already had 3 cups of coffee. So I think I'm going to move on to tea, otherwise I'm not going to sleep tonight. And we shall talk about the lost whip last. So this is the garment I'm currently working on. Definitely not going to be finished in time for Wonderwool, which is in 2 weeks. 2 weeks tomorrow. God, that's come about quick given I bought the tickets back in January. But this is my In Between Dreams cardigan by My Units. I'm using a discontinued yarn for this, which is the Rowan Valley Tweed. I keep wanting to say felted tweed, but that's the DK one. This is the Valley Tweed in the colourway Janet's Foss. That's looking a lot more blue on camera than it actually is. It's actually quite a greeny blue, well, it's more of a bluey green. It leans more green in person, in my opinion, than blue. But, and this is getting really difficult to show because I've done more increases and it doesn't quite, it still fits on the cord, but I can't like stretch it out, so. But I am pleased to say that I am now over halfway through the lace repeats. So very happy about that. Not because I'm getting sick of the lace, it just seems to be an awful lot of knitting without actually having much progress, especially now that the rows are over 400 stitches and I've still got an increase to do, which will add another 30 stitches, I think. Maybe slightly more than that. But I'm quite happy with this. I am loving how this looks. I'm going to try and stretch out a little bit to show you. I don't know how well that's going to show up. I mean, if I hold it up over my face, you can at least see skin tone through it rather than black, because I'm wearing a band t-shirt today for some unknown reason. And so, yeah, there's not tons to say about this at the moment. I am over halfway through. I'm looking forward to finishing the lace because I know this then goes on to very simple back and forth stockinettes, which I don't have tons of stockinette projects at the moment, and I could do with a couple because I might be going to the cinema next week, but I don't think I'm finishing the other half of this lace in a week, so we'll see. But it'd be nice to have this finished. Specifically, it'd be nice to have the lace repeat finished in time for Wonderwall. That way then I could work on this in the car, just the back and forth. But I don't have any goals for when this to be finished. It gets finished when it gets finished. I'm enjoying this. I'm happy with it. I'm loving the yarn. This is still the first ball, and these are 50 grams. So they come, I've got a whole pack of 10 50-gram skeins. And this is still the first one, and there is still quite a bit left. I'm quite surprised. It's not like I'm using really, really big needles either. They are 3.25 at the moment. And I think I might be able to get the entire lace pattern done on basically one skein. Which then makes me wonder, am I going to end up with like 3 or 4 balls of this left once I'm done? I hope not. But we'll see. That's not going to be an issue until... Realistically, knowing me, that's not going to be an issue until about September, but... Project number 1. Tea break. Project number 2. This has been my out and about sitting in meetings and stuff. Oh, sitting in appointments, waiting for appointments, stuff like that. This has been my project for that. And I'm sure you recognise the bag if you've been here for a while. These are my April socks. I have finished the heel, turned the heel, and finished the gusset at this point. So these are just a vanilla stockinette sock. This is the only stockinette project I currently have. which is fine, but I have a feeling that these aren't going to last till the end of the month. I have a couple more appointments I have to sit in or go to next week and the week after, including my pre-op appointment, which, if anybody knows how those work in this country, you go there, you get your blood drawn, they take your height, your weight and your blood pressure, and then you sit there waiting for a nurse to finally decide it's time to go over your questionnaire to see if you're fit for surgery. So I'm sure this is going to get a lot of work then. I will probably be on to the second sock by then, but Sasha, we want to know about the yarn. Never mind talking about your blah 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 blah. Yeah. So the plain black is from Mothy and the Squid. It was a free mini skein I got with a purchase I made at Wonderwool last year. And this beautiful variegated, almost micro striping colourway is from Laura over at The Lonely Knitter. Let's see how many more times I can drop this label. So, Laura over at The Lonely Knitter. She's also the owner of the Folk Yarn Studios and organiser of the East Anglia Yarn Festival. And this colourway is from her All of Time and Space collection, and it's Trying Not to Fail. So I got this on her Twisty 50s base, which is basically just a 75 superwash merino 25 nylon, but it's only 50 grams, and I bought 4 of them, and I plan on making shorty socks with all of them. Shorty, the shorter legs that I normally wear. I normally make. The pair I'm currently wearing has a 120 leg, 120 rows between the cuff and the actual leg. I can't show you those because I've got skinny jeans on, and I'm sorry I'm not showing my feet on camera. But these are 20 rounds of 2x2 rib and 45 for the leg. I do mine cuff down, obviously, on a 9-inch circular, 2.5mm, and I do a heel flap and gusset because I find that's what fits me and my partner best. I know some people prefer afterthought heels, some people prefer short row heels. We have quite high arches, so we need the extra space that the heel flap and gusset provides, and it fits well, it's comfortable. I also prefer knitting a heel flap and gusset rather than doing a short row heel, or the terrifying prospect of cutting into my knitting. No, thank you. So, project number 2. I've just finished the gusset, so I'm on to the round and round knitting, which I will probably end up doing while editing this video. So, I can't imagine the foot's going to take me very long. Once I get round to it, it's quite simple, easy, round and round knitting. Tea break. So, I lost this bag and the project in it. It was in the house, it just ended up in a room that I have no idea how it ended up there. So, for some reason this ended up in the loft. Then it got brought down and hung on the edge, hung on the end of the bed. We've got a metal 4-poster bed, so you can hang things on the end, on the corner, because it's there's a ball knob at the top and you can hang stuff over it, and this was in a tote bag. It ended up in the loft, then it came down, it got hung on the edge of the bed, and then I ended up putting a jacket over it that I would pick up and put down, like I'd throw on while doing stuff. And I didn't realise there was actually anything in the tote bag. And then I moved it in February, and I was like, there's something in that. It was this. It was a project that I'd completely forgotten about. I started this, I think this time last year. I think I worked on it until about June, and then it somehow vanished from my memory. But these are the Pioneer gloves by Kelly McClure, I think her name is. A professional YouTuber would have checked the name of this before coming on, but why would I do that? Nothing professional about me, at least not in its current setting. But here they are. So this is where I was when I last showed it to you, which was sometime last year, probably in about June or July. I have now finished the arm, done the thumb increases and put the thumb on hold. I think I've got about 5 rows or so left before I cast off the main body of this first glove. So these are fingerless mitts kind of things, and I have made these elbow length, which is why they look ridiculously long, and because they're ribbed they look really tiny. This is the wrong arm, but this is the one I'll put it on to show you for length purposes. And so these do have a specific left and right hand because of the way the increases work and the placement of it. But yeah, this is definitely on the wrong arm, because those are supposed to be over the palm, but it's a bit more of a mission to put it on this one because of my new watch. So it does go on. It does go on. I'm just not going to sit here for like 10 minutes slowly finagling it onto my arm over the watch, because I've got to be careful because it's still on the needles. So, but these are the perfect length. They're exactly the length I wanted. So, and to make that the perfect length that I wanted, that is 120 rounds before starting the thumb increases, which was another 40-ish rounds. So there's a lot of knitting in this, in the rib pattern. If I remember correctly, this is a free pattern, so I'm not going to give too much away, but I will link the pattern and all that in the description box below if you're interested. So yeah, I found these. I've been working on them the last couple of nights, and now you probably want to know what the yarn is. So the yarn is by Attic Spin Dye, and it is the Rockabunny Fabulous colourway, which is this gorgeous black and hot pink micro stripe. It definitely micro stripes here over where the increases are, because of course there's more stitches, but it's more of a sort of a two-tone variegated. There's definitely variations in the black and in the pink. So, but yeah, I'm hoping I can get these finished. Like, this is still the first glove, so there is still an entirely second glove to make. I haven't even finished this one. I've still got a little bit to do, plus the thumb. But I'm hoping I can get this finished in this second quarter. Maybe not necessarily in April, but in the second quarter. To count this as one of my long-standing whips, because I think this is one of my longest whips at this point, unless you count the scrap project. But I don't count the scrap project because that only gets worked on when I've got scraps for it. So, but there we go. This bag is by That's So Becky, and it is it Ghostface from Spirited Away, and I'm very happy to have this bag back because I completely forgot I had it. So there we go. And project-wise, that is everything. I technically have acquisition this week in the form of this bag, which is from Super Effective Fibres, but I haven't opened that yet, so I'm not going to show it. I am going to be recording the first part of the next video today, so I'll actually see what the colour is, and we'll see if there's anything in here. It doesn't sound like it. Not that I expect there to be, like, I only pay for the yarn, so that's all I expect. It's just nice to see some of the stickers and stuff, so. But yeah, that's basically it. I have not much else to talk about, really. Bit of life stuff, I guess. We had a nice bank holiday weekend. I hope everybody else had a nice bank holiday weekend. If you get a bank holiday for it, I know some parts of America didn't get a single extra day off. My partner works with as part of an international company, or his team is international, and I know his the American colleagues on his team didn't get any extra days off, whereas we got a 4-day weekend. So yeah, I hope you at least had a good chocolate haul, because I know I did, but that's because I went to the hotel chocolate store a few days after Easter and bought a whole load of half-price chocolate, because why not? Otherwise, we did a lot, like, around the house. Like, we sanded and painted the skirting board in our hallway, which might not sound like much, but our hallway is 8.5 meters long. So when you count the fact that we had to do that on both sides, minus the doors on the one side, but that was basically 16 meters of, well, probably close to 15, but that's a lot of prep work. We had to sand it all down, wipe it all down, clean up all the dust and everything. Then we had to masking tape the wall and the floor, because we've got I think it's called flashing. It's like a curved bit, so it's not like, we don't have like a solid, like, 90-degree angle between floor and wall. If there's like a curve bit, so we had to tape that up, and then we had to paint it. And of course, because of the curved bit on the top, so you can see here, like, this bit is curved, so this bit, for some reason the living room has a double layer because it sits lower in the house than the rest of it, but basically we had to roller this bit and then paint with a paintbrush the top bit, which we had to do 3 times, because we had to put primer on it, then the first coat and the second coat. Does it now look amazing? Absolutely. It looked absolutely awful before because it had been painted magnolia, and not even like using wood paint. It was painted in wall paint with the rest of the house, because the previous owners, or the previous owners, this was renter spec, so everything was magnolia, and so it looked horrible. It is now white. It's now proper bright white, which makes a hallway look so much brighter. It looks so much better. However, it does make the fact that the walls and the ceiling are still painted magnolia even more noticeable. So our next job, probably this weekend, is painting the ceiling, which is also no mean feat, because yeah. We live in an old style Victorian house. An old style Victorian house. But it's also very, very tall. So me and my partner were both quite tall. I'm almost 6 foot, he's 6'2". We're tall. And we need a set of 3 steps to change the light bulbs. So when you take into account that we have to wipe all the walls down, wipe it down with sugar soap, or the ceiling, mask up the light fixtures and the smoke detector, we have to reach for that. Like, for me, I have to stand on the top of the 3-stepper, and I'm still on tippy toes in order to reach the edge of the ceiling in order to mask it up. So that's going to be fun. It'll all be worth it in the end because I absolutely hate Magnolia. I spent far too much time as a kid and a teenager and a very young adult in rent-a-spec properties that's just everything was Magnolia. Like, the colour is horrible. It's like, it's a horrible, if you don't know what Magnolia is, it's like a whitish yellow. Well, it's not white, it's yellow. It's a really pale yellow. But it's horrible. It's like, no, I don't think anybody likes Magnolia. But the reason in this country, anyway, that everything is painted Magnolia is because it's cheap. And also, it's not white, so it doesn't show up the dirt quite so easily, which I still do not think is a good reason to paint your skirting boards Magnolia with wall paint. But, otherwise, that's it. Oh, we went for a nice long walk on the bank holiday Monday. We went to a nearby forest. I was going to record that and put some footage in here for you, but I forgot to pick up my GoPro at the last minute, so... My tea's gone cold. My tea's gone cold. Oh dear. And yeah, as I said, I spent a lot of time yesterday in a spring cleaning, organising mood. Did some stuff mostly in my crafting corner. I was quite surprised that I had an entire paper bag full of rubbish. Just like little bits, like there was some receipts, there was some like ball bands, other bits and pieces. I don't know how it had all built up, but I somehow had a bag full of rubbish. Most of it was recycling, like I'd recycle it, so that's not an issue. But I was just surprised at how much I'd managed to accumulate in that corner over the last 2 years. So that's now tidy, but it does mean that I'm now going to be rushing to edit this later because this has to go live at 5 o'clock and it is currently 10 to 12. And I now have to go and make lunch, make lunch, go for a walk with my partner. You know, because 2 fitness classes this morning definitely wasn't enough exercise and I still have to go for a walk. And I'll be going for another walk this afternoon, plus running errands, so... yeah, and I should leave it here. Otherwise I will keep waffling, I will keep rambling. Nobody needs to listen to me ramble, nobody wants that. So, I hope you all have a good week, or good weekend and a good week. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and I hope to see you again next week. Bye guys.